Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Bryce Vine.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is Daryl Aney.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
This is Dr. Bob Greenberg.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Hey, this is Pete A. Turner from the Break It Down Show, and we've got a crazy album fight for you guys today. We've got David Bowie's Heroes versus ZZ Top's La Futura. Dr. Tim Furnish built this fight, and he's been beating me up for a while to get it done, and so we finally are able to put this up, and I can't wait to do it. So Tim's one of our judges. Also judging with us tonight is two returning judges, Dan White and Tony Alvarado, and they are going to be doing what they did great in the mixtape finals, and it's great to have new judges that are back to become seasoned judges. So thank you, fellas, for that. Let's. I want to really quickly talk. Just David Bowie's one of these fighters that we see with their albums are peaky, right? There's Heroes on this album, and like you don't get a bigger song than that. But then there's other songs you've never heard of from the David Bowie lexicon and catalog of songs. So this will be interesting. This will be an interesting fight. Let's get Phil to introduce our fighters.
Today's album fight is a 10-round battle between a Starman and some legendary beards. In the red corner, after a 9-year hiatus from the studio, we have ZZ Top with their 15th studio album from 2012, La Futura. And their opponent in the blue corner, with the second installment of the Berlin trilogy, we have David Bowie and his 12th studio album from 1977, Heroes. Let's get ready to ramble. Take it away, judges.
Perfect. And then, of course, let's have Richard with his patent pending analysis. Richard.
I was going to do a little experiment this week with this fight and use the exact same system I used for the mixtape tournament. Kind of a pared down version of what I normally use. And then, well, the numbers came out very odd. One set of numbers was a blowout, then the next set was a tie, but with 6 tied rounds in the fight, basically meaning it could be a draw or it could be a blowout for one side, or it could be close. Pretty much anything. The third set had it 5-1, but with 4 ties, meaning it could be a total blowout or a tied fight. And those sets of numbers didn't really tell me anything, but I had some suspicions. So as always, I leaned on the entire patent pending process, and the numbers became very clear. Short version, this fight is all Bowie. And full disclosure, prior to this fight, I didn't even know this ZZ Top album existed. I mean, hell, it's their 15th studio album, recorded in 2012. Not a clue. Anyway, the numbers came out to 1 for ZZ Top, 9 for Bowie, and 4 ties. That pretty much says this is a lock for Bowie. While there is an off chance it pulls one judge, I'm doubtful. So, with the off chance there's a split vote, I'll commit to saying it will be a unanimous decision for Bowie. Back to you.
Thank you, Richard. We'll have to beat up Richard later on for being kind of just barely fence sitting, right, with his back, his 2-footed hedge, and we like to get him squarely on top of a prediction. But I think he's done a great job, and we'll see what the numbers bear out. Tim, what are your thoughts? You built this fight. You wanted to do this. Give me your initial breakdown pre-fight.
Well, I wanted to do it because I'm a huge ZZ Top fan, always have been, and I have become later in life a Bowie fan. I must confess I didn't appreciate him that much when I was younger. I also, at one point in my life, liked Barry Manilow, but I outgrew that, thank God. It was just, they're so wildly different. I thought it would be very interesting because it seems like a number of the album fights that you had me on to do, we were doing bands that were, kind of roughly equivalent in terms of genre and such, like Boston and Aerosmith and that sort of thing, which is cool, but it's nice sometimes. I thought it would be nice to do 2 groups, 2 acts that are so wildly different like these two are. And you know, since I was just thinking all day, I was doing syllabi all day, and I'm teaching military history this term. This is sort of a rapier against a broadsword, and you know, I was just interested to see how it would come out.
Dan, what were your thoughts?
Listening to the albums, they are vastly different in just tones, beats, lyrics, and listening to them, it honestly just depends the mood of the judge and the mood he's in at that point. There is no, you know, common ground when it comes to, you know, one song versus the next. It's just how you feel at that particular moment.
Yeah, I think you're making a great point there. This is just like a fight. I mean, judges have moods, they have styles, they have things they like, and sometimes it's well, often in the album fight arena, it's the nits that are picked that make the difference over the big punches or whatever it's going to be. And I want to get into that. Tony, what do you think pre-fight?
Well, I agree with both Dan and Tim, Pete. These are two albums that are very different styles, different eras, even by legendary artists. And you go through when you go through and do the work, it's amazing what you come up with. So I'm really excited to get everybody's reading on these albums.
Yeah, this is interesting. I literally had no idea about La Futura until I listened to it, and I really, as much as I know about David Bowie's catalog, I was not strong on this whole album. So this was new for me, and I can't wait to get started. So I guess that's exactly what we should do. Round one, I got to get paid versus Beauty and the Beast. Tim, why don't you start us off?
Well, we have two drug songs opening up the albums, which I guess is good. If it's true that Beauty and the Beast is about Bowie trying to deal with his cocaine addiction, which is what some of the stuff that I read said. And I Got to Get Paid is a remake of a hip hop song about, of course, you know, poor naive me. I live in rural North Georgia. What do I know about the drug trade? So my understanding is that this is about the whole thing about the 25 lighters is about you can put crack, I guess, in the lighters and sell it, or you used to be able to, or you could sell it easier, I guess. But I guess it was a big hip hop song, and then ZZ Top sort of blues-ized it, or whatever you would say that ZZ Top does to a song. And I thought it was a great way to open the album. It's a very punchy song. And again, like we've said with other people, but I think it's doubly so when you're talking about a Billy Gibbons. There's no such thing as a bad guitar part. And even a mediocre, mundane song, I think, can sound good because Billy Gibbons is playing guitar on it. I find it striking that, you know, and Pete, I'm going to bring up Rolling Stone. And I know you don't like Rolling Stone that much, but their listing of the top 100 rock guitarists had him number 32. And I'm listening to this album again intently. I'm going, there's no way this man is only the number 32 guitarist in rock history. He's got to be higher than that. So I really like that song. Beauty and the Beast, I like this song too. I found it the more I listened to it, because I never heard this song before. It was very beguiling, especially as it went along lyrically, and I liked it. But I just think that the punch of I Got to Get Paid won out for me. So I had this ZZ Top 10-9.
If you were going to put him in your mind as far as the guitarist goes, if he's higher than 32, what's your sense for where his value is? What's he? Is he 20?
I think I'd put him in the teens.
Okay.
I don't think he's in the pantheon. What's the Stone ranking is Hendrix, Clapton, and Page, I believe.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Dan, how about you?
I've heard both songs in the past. It's kind of putting them side by side. They're just completely different. They do have, you know, some kind of the same reference, but the beats, the tones, the lyrics, just the sound of the song so much different. Got to Get Paid. I just came back from a road trip today, so a lot of ZZ Tops are their road trip songs. So that's the kind of mood I was in today. Beauty and the Beast seemed more like something you'll hear from a soundtrack from the 80s. So to me, it wasn't as close as it, but I had it scored 10-9 ZZ Top.
Okay. Tony, how about you?
So this is a classic ZZ Top album, in my opinion, because it's almost like a formula. It's almost like an AC/DC album. You know exactly what you're going to get on every track, and there's slight variations, but you know what's going to happen. You're going to get the guitar tones, you're going to get the vocals, and it's going to be a kind of a formula. And I thought I Got to Get Paid was a great way to open the album. This was my first run through La Futura when I got this AlbumFight assignment, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the song a lot. I loved the groove on the David Bowie song, though. I thought that just spoke to me a little bit more than the ZZ Top song. So I went 10-9 for Bowie in this one.
Nice. Yeah, I like it. And then I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's actually a writing credit for ZZ Top in the I Got to Get Paid. So in terms of it being a cover, sure, Albie Sure and a bunch of other people wrote this song, but these guys did enough difference that they've actually got their own unique writing credit, and I think that's worth noting because we normally are pretty rough on covers, but I think that they've done what they need to do to make the cover their own and a worthy singular entry. Let's go ahead and do round 2, Chartreuse versus Joe the Lion. Tony, start us off.
In this round, I love the lyric in the ZZ Top song about loving the big caboose. I mean, that was kind of stole it from me. And Joe the Lion, I thought was an okay second song on the album, but it just didn't really appeal to me that much. I thought there was too much going on. I went 10-9 in favor of ZZ Top on this one. I thought Chartreuse was just solid, just bang them out. Once again, the same formula that you hear from a ZZ Top song, but in this case, it worked.
And how about you, Dan?
Tony had it pretty good on that. It's a typical ZZ Top. You can't almost not beat them in any kind of guitar song. Good bar music. This round was probably one of the toughest for me to judge because Bowie in the song have just great vocals. Great vocals. Guy's got an awesome voice. I also had it scored 10-9 ZZ Top though.
All right. And asking Tim, are you going to keep the trend going for Chartreuse?
Alas, but I am. I also have a 10-9 ZZ Top. Chartreuse I like. I think there's several better songs in the album, which I'll get to. But, again, the guitar part's awesome. Joe the Lion, I know, was supposed to be I guess sort of a tribute to a performance artist in Germany. This album was recorded in West Berlin. God, remember when there was a West Berlin?
Yeah.
Back in the day. I'm old enough to remember when there was a West Berlin. I didn't particularly see. I thought Bowie was really good, vocally on some of the songs on this album. I just did not think this was one of them. I thought he alternated between shouting and sort of talking. A lot of the time, I didn't think he was really actually singing like he can. So, I think these are two of the weaker songs on each album, but I did also give it to Chartreuse 10-9.
All right, clipping along at a good pace here. Let's go ahead and go round 3, Consumption versus Heroes. Dan, lead us off.
Well, this one here, I think was one of the better songs for Bowie on this album. This, for me, was a good song to drive to, and I'm going to kind of go along that whole line with this because that's usually ZZ Top, but this one, Bowie sounded really good. Consumption, the song seemed to move around a little bit too much for me. It was kind of hard to follow. While you still had the, ZZ Top guitar, the basic ZZ Top sound, it was just too hard to follow. So I actually had this one scored 10-9 Bowie.
And Tony?
I had it the same way. I had a 10-9 Bowie. Heroes, full disclosure, is my favorite David Bowie song. I mean, that doesn't really get much better than that. And although Consumption was a good song for this album, the ZZ Top album, it couldn't hold a candle to Heroes at all.
Yeah, Heroes is one of those songs that you can walk around and hear it in a commercial, hear it in a mall. Especially after he passed, it's just everywhere. It's sort of a ubiquitous, and it's one of those songs. Tim, why don't you go ahead and weigh in on this round?
Thanks, Pete. I think I shall. Look, Heroes is, arguably, and a couple of rankings, Heroes is Bowie's best song. I think it's right up there with Modern Love, which I think are probably his two best. And but I have to say, you guys remember Heroes? I think actually there's a cover of this that's better, the one by the Wallflowers from the movie The Replacements. Remember The Replacements with Keanu Reeves?
Yeah.
That was an awesome cover. I mean, hate to say it, David, God rest your soul, but that was a better cover. But that is a great song, one of the greatest songs in history. I will agree. One of Bowie's top 3, certainly, which is unfortunate for Consumption because I think Consumption is the second best song on this album. But, you know, Pete, I remember you remarked about it in a couple of previous ones we did. It's kind of interesting how, I think it was the last one we did was U2 versus the Doors. And it was like, it was sort of how weird how the bad songs or the weaker songs in the album got matched up against each other and the really good songs got matched up against each other. And I think that happened here too. Yeah, I gave this to Heroes because, again, this is one of Bowie's best songs, although I really do like Consumption. And I do want to say something, though, guys. Keep in mind, we're talking about formulaic ZZ Top. What I really like about this album is that I thought this album was a return to their 70s stuff instead of all that synthesizer crap they were doing in the 80s with Afterburner and Recycler and all the albums that ended in ER that were the really big hits. But they started doing that, you know, that synthesizer stuff that I got really tired of. And what I really liked about La Futura was like they kind of dropped most of that and went back to just the three instruments. But all of that aside, Heroes 10-8, I gave it to them.
Whoa, a knockdown! All right, yeah. Well, that's exciting. Yeah, and I guess you should also. We all understand this too. Like certain things, like a formula is a little bit boring, but TNT, bacon and eggs, certain things have a formula, and it's for a reason because it's fucking good, and not a whole lot of reason to change it. You lean on the formula when it works. So let's go ahead and go round 4, Over You versus Sons of the Silent Age. Tim, start us off.
Over You is a really, really good song, but it's a ballad. And what in God's name is Billy Gibbons doing singing a ballad, okay? I'm sorry. It just doesn't work that well. I mean, I can think of about 20 people that if they sang this song, it would be awesome. With ZZ Top, it's still good, but, it's like my grandfather who can't, who has to go to the otolaryngologist to sing in a song. It just doesn't work that well. And my grandfather's dead, God rest him, on both sides. It's a really good song, but no, it just doesn't work with Billy Gibbons singing it. I thought Sons of the Silent Age was, I think, although Bowie is trying so hard to be avant-garde artsy on this one, it's still a damn good song. So I gave this one to Bowie 10-9.
All right. Tony, how about you?
Yeah, I have to disagree with Tim there. I went the other way on this one, and the only reason was and it was the battle of the slow songs, in my opinion, in this one. And I really liked the bluesy feel of the song, but I also had the same reaction when I first heard it. I was like, what is this from ZZ Top? I'm not used to this at all. But it was just the artsy feel Tim talked about of Sons of the Silent Age. At the time, it just didn't do it for me. And I listened to these songs. This was a long battle for me. This is my most difficult round. I listened to them a few times, and then I finally said, you know what, Overused got the better uppercut here and took this one 10-9.
10-9. All right, a little dissension. I like it. And then how about you, Dan?
I like I really like the jazz sound of Over You. They're both easy, kind of easier beat songs. Unfortunately, when I hear Bowie and this song, I can't get Pink Floyd out of my head. He sounds, it's just, there's a few songs on Bowie's album. While his overall album, I think, is more well-rounded, this song is just way too much Pink Floyd in my head. So I actually had this one ZZ Top 10, Bowie 9.
All right, ZZ Top 10. Wow, ZZ Top getting after it. I like it. Let's go ahead and go round 5. Heartache in Blue, continuing their color theme, versus Blackout. Let's go ahead and have Tony start this round.
Okay, so this was a round that I thought I called it a non-traditional. I guess you call it the artsy sound, like Tim said earlier, of David Bowie. Kind of came through and was superior to the ZZ Top song. Heartache in Blue, a good song for this album. Once again, you get the ZZ Top formula on this one. But I really liked the groove on Blackout. It spoke to me. It sounded like it was a really good song to just. I was running at the time when I listened to it the first time, and I was just jamming right along, and I really liked it. I went 10-9 Bowie on this one.
Dan, how did you do it?
This Bowie song, I listened to it 2-3 times. I couldn't. It wouldn't grow on me, no matter how hard I tried it. The ZZ Top, once again, it was a good beat, and it had a kind of a blues riff to it. It seemed like to me. But the Bowie song was just too hard to listen to. I actually almost had this one a knockout. but I had it ZZ Top 10-9.
Wow. So you saw Bowie stagger with his artsy fartsiness, huh?
Yeah.
Tim.
Heartache Blue is a whole lot of harmonica for a ZZ Top song. I mean, I think the harmonica, there was a guy named James Harmon, I looked it up, he's a professional harmonica player. And he's quite good at it. I would have rather heard a bit more guitar than harmonica, but still it was a good song. I do think this is the most formulaic blues song on the album, but it's still good. Blackout, I couldn't quite figure it out. I mean, I know with David Bowie, sometimes you just got to go with the lyrics. It's sort of like, you know, when Lennon's doing Come Together or lyrics like that, or Yellow Matter Custard dripping from a dead dog's eye or something. And Bowie, I think, does a lot of that. And I know the critics like to say that that's just proves how intelligent it is. And sometimes I think he's just doing stream of consciousness on a level that, I don't know, tongue-in-cheek sort of level. I just really never got into Blackout, so I gave this the ZZ Top 10-9.
Whoa. All right. This is interesting. So we're about halfway through. Let's just slow down for a second. And Dan, what are you hearing so far in these two fights? These 5 rounds in, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking that ZZ Top, I really enjoy their older stuff. I think it was Tim that said something about, you know, how bad Afterburner was, and to the opposite, that was actually my favorite album. I think that Rough Boy off that album probably would have knocked out almost any one of these Bowie songs. But Bowie just, I've been somewhat of a fan, just never a real big fan of his. And I see where Tim seems to be leaning a little towards Bowie, and which is kind of weird because he says he's ZZ Top, who isn't.
But we're not done yet, don't forget. So
this is true. This is true. Or one of his bandmates or something. So I would give him that, but I have this one ZZ Top 10 and Bowie 9.
Yeah. And then, Tony, what are you thinking? 5 rounds in, what have you noticed about this fight?
5 rounds in, it's completely the opposite of what I expected. When you look at it on first glance, you think this is just going to be a walk for David Bowie. And then when I got into it and found out at this point that it was, you know, in my mind, 3 rounds to 2, David Bowie through 5 songs, I was pretty impressed. And I think this was ZZ Top's first album in 10 years, 9 or 10 years.
9 years. 9 years.
But it still plays. Like, the style still plays. I'm with you guys as well. I mean, I wore Eliminator out. I mean, I was 10 or 11 years old back then, so I wore that album out. But yeah, I got kind of tired of it. It seemed a little stale. You know, when you look back on it, you know, there's stuff from the 70s and comparing it to this. I thought ZZ Top held up well, so I'm excited to see what happens in the next 5.
Tim, any comments in the first 5 rounds?
You young whippersnappers, see, I'm a LaGrange guy, you know, not that 80s synthesizer crap. I like LaGrange. And by the way, I've got it. My first 5 rounds are 3-2 ZZ Top. So it's not like I'm favoring Bowie. So I think there is this sort of assumption that, you know, Bowie, again, very eclectic. I mean, the dude is supremely talented. Perhaps the single most, with the possible exception, I say maybe of Paul McCartney, maybe the most talented guy. I found out here that he plays saxophone. I didn't know David Bowie played saxophone.
Yeah,
on some of these tracks, he plays the saxophone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the man's incredibly talented. We all know that. And he's a darling of, you know, Rolling Stone and the artsy crowd and stuff. ZZ Top, well, they only know 3 chords and blah, blah, blah. But damn, they can do a lot with those 3 chords, can't they?
Yeah, there's something about them and AC/DC and their ability to ring that same bell over and over again, and you just don't get tired of it. I mean, if you go see ZZ Top live, whether it's a cover band or not, just the music is strong, and there's something that they've figured out where you're not just like when I was doing it, I wasn't worn out yet. I thought I might be, but every time it's like no, they're slowing down. There was David Bowie just stumbling, like his shoes were tied together sometimes. So
well, you know, Pete, and that's the thing I think about this album. I think a lot of people, first of all, didn't know about this album when it came out from even 2012, 6 years ago, or God Almighty, 7 years ago now going on. And the thing that I really liked about this album was that even though it is to a certain degree formulaic, I think all of the songs are pretty profoundly, distinctly different. And I think that's really neat how they do that. with only 3 guys, really, basically.
Yeah, and a harmonica guy every now and then and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and do round 6. I Don't Want to Lose You versus V2 Schneider. So let's go ahead and have Dan kick us off.
Yeah, so like I was saying, this one here, this was, to me, was the round that, I mean, both of them should have been knocked out. Up until this point, ZZ Top was I had them the first 5 rounds. I had them 4-1, and this one here kind of wipes all the good juju away at that point. Both songs just, I mean, they were bad, but Bowie's tribute in this song, it's the only thing that kept them from actually being knocked out also. But 10-9 ZZ Top on this one.
Okay, so almost a Burford round around early, it sounds like. Okay, let's go ahead and go. Tim, how did you have this round?
I had a 10-9 ZZ Top. I Don't Want to Lose You, I think is a good song. I happen to like it quite a bit, especially the guitar and the bass. B2 Schneider, we got 3 instrumentals here in a row by Bowie, which again is kind of unfair because ZZ Top doesn't do instrumentals. I mean, it's kind of art rocky. It's a tribute to Kraftwerk. Which, of course, I'm probably not intelligent enough to understand. It was kind of an intriguing song in certain ways. I mean, anytime you mention a V2, it's kind of interesting to me because I'm a history buff. But I still think ZZ Top was better, so I scored this 10-9 ZZ Top.
Tony?
I went 10-9 ZZ Top as well. This was this. I started to see David Bowie wobbling a little bit here. I didn't really get the song that much, and you say it's a tribute song, and that's very cool. Like you said, I might not understand the tribute either on this one, but I got more out of I Don't Want to Lose You. David Bowie was kind of like stumbling there, so I went 10-9 ZZ Top.
All right, well, let's just go ahead and start this Burford round and see how these tired albums go and do. Let's have round 7, Flying High.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero, co-host of the Break It Down Show and fellow producer here at Lions Rock Productions. And I'm proud to announce our newest show. It's called Justice. Season 1 is going to be a deep dive into some of the cases I personally worked on as a licensed private investigator, and you'll get a unique view into the criminal justice system that may just challenge some of your personal notions about how it should work and open your eyes in ways you never imagined. So keep your ears open for Justice, a brand new podcast coming in January from Lions Rock Productions to iTunes, Stitcher, and wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
All right, well, let's just go ahead and start this Burford round and see how these tired albums go and do. Let's have round 7, Flying High versus Sense of Doubt. And Tim, start us off.
Flying High is my favorite song on this album. I mean, it should have probably been a single, but ZZ Top hasn't charted a single since, I don't know, the second Clinton administration, I guess. But, and by the way, did you know this? I looked this up. ZZ Top only ever had 2 top 10 songs. I think it was Legs and one of the other songs in the 80s there got to number 8. Never had a number 1. Bowie, of course, had a couple of number 1s. Heroes never charted, interestingly enough, although it's a great song. Flying High, I think, is a really damn good song. That guitar solo is just, again, there's no such thing as a bad Billy Gibbons guitar solo. There's
Right.
not. This one sounds more cleaner. I mean, it's like they cleaned it up. It's less bluesy on this. It's more sort of mainstream rock, I think it's safe to say. But I think it's a damn good song. I love some of these lines. Jimmy said, "I'm going to kiss the sky." And then a couple of times, I think they're kind of poking fun at themselves. At one point, they say, we're bad, we're nationwide, or something like that, which, of course, is a callback to their earlier stuff. So I thought that was pretty funny of them. They have a tongue-in-cheek sort of sense of humor about themselves, which I guess if you have beards like that, you have to. Sense of Doubt sounded to me like the soundtrack to a movie about the Antichrist. So I didn't get a whole lot out of it other than I didn't want to listen to it again. So I scored this one 10-8.
Another knockdown. Wow. All right. So David Bowie gets knocked down this time. Interesting. Tony, how did you have round 7?
So Flying High, you're right. It's a great song. It really works with the album. The flow on this album I thought was great. But I listened to the David Bowie song, and it was kind of weird. Like, this is the in the middle of all the instrumental songs, but when I heard it, I was very intrigued because I heard the keyboards reminded me of New Order's Procession. And I pulled that out right away, and I was listening to it. I'm like, I've heard this before. And even though Heroes came out 6 years before the New Order song came out, it was cool to hear the kind of, this is kind of the influence that he had on alt rock in the 80s and heading into the 90s. I went 10-9 Bowie on this one, but it was very, very close. I mean, like I said, Flying High is a great song, but I thought that the sounds on the Bowie song were really appealing and really good.
Even though I'm just a CompuBox judge on this fight, I was finding the same thing where there was you could hear a lot of Eno influence that was being planted in this song. So that was when I scored it. I scored it the same way as you, and that was why, because that influence that seemed to leak through. Dan, how did you have this round?
I really enjoyed Flying High. This was also another one of those rounds that was very tough to judge. Sense of Doubt, when you say there's influence, once again, this is another one of those songs. For some reason, I hear Pink Floyd. I actually added this song to my iTunes. I really like the Sense of Doubt tone, sound a little bit better. So I scored this one actually 10-9 Bowie.
Nice. Bowie getting around. Maybe that mid-fight pep talk has him going a little better. Let's move along into round 8. It's Too Easy Mañana versus Moss Garden. And let's have Tony start us off.
So Moss Garden just didn't play for me. And I was disappointed because Bowie came back in the 7th round with Sense of Doubt, and I thought that was good. I thought he's coming back, but then it just slowed down even more. And here comes ZZ Top with their, it's like Mr. Reliable here, just punching away and making tracks with It's Too Easy Mañana. Good song, good for once again, it flows with the album. I thought it was, the lyrics were entertaining. I went 10-9 ZZ Top.
Awesome. Great points. Dan, how about you?
I thought this was a good transition from Flying High. Flying High, hey, we're at the top of the world, and all of a sudden, hey, life is easy. Good song. I actually also added this song to my iTunes playlist. It was like good transitional song. I like the Moss Garden song. My only downfall of this whole Bowie album is just me personally. Too many of these songs kind of sounded like somebody else. So I had this round 10-9 ZZ Top.
And Tim?
Moss Garden, Zen, so very Zen. It reminded me of that, that channel. I don't know if you guys have DirecTV, the channel on DirecTV where you can listen to like the stations that will make you, the music stations, and one of them will make you, relax and fall asleep. They should put this on there. Which is too bad because It's Too Easy Mañana is not one of the better songs on the ZZ Top album. Hey, it's about drinking. Damn, really? Because ZZ Top's writing about drinking and girls again. But unlike the other one that I said was the great ballad that should not be sung by Billy Gibbons, Over You, this one's kind of not quite as slowed down of a ballad as that. So I think Gibbons' vocal works better on this. And it's just an enjoyable song, and it makes me want to go drink some bootleg whiskey, especially maybe grow my beard. So I gave this the ZZ Top 10-9.
All right. Well, drinking your bootleg whiskey, I'm looking at the scorecard, and it looks like the Darling is taking it a absolute whooping here from ZZ Top. Like, he came in pretty, and boy, they have 2 unanimous rounds in the last 3 rounds. Granted, they lost against Sense of Doubt, but this is a surprise where ZZ Top is really that machine that Tony was talking about, just doesn't stop punching. And David's like posing, like, look at me, I'm going to vogue a little bit over here in the corner. And then Billy Gibbons just keeps throwing that hammer. So it's a pretty interesting fight, fellas. Let's go into the penultimate round, round 9, Big Shining 9 versus Newkern. Let's have Dan start us off.
Big Shiny 9. I never heard the song, so I was, all right, let's see what this is going to be about. And after listening to it a couple times, and this Bowie song I'd never heard either, I liked your pronunciation on it. To me, it kind of looks like New Colon or whatever.
Right.
But nonetheless, I actually added New Colon to my my iTunes list. I really enjoyed the song. It seemed to just lyrically just kind of jump around a little bit, but it's easy to listen to. Once again, it's another one of those kind of Pink Floydy songs, but I really liked it, and I actually had Bowie on this one 10-9.
Oh, okay. All right. See, so there you go. I open my mouth and David Bowie fills it with a fist. Tim, how about you?
Big Shining Eye is my least favorite song on this album. Is it about guns? Is it sexual innuendo? Is it something else? Is it both? You never know with ZZ Top. Probably all of the above. I don't particularly like that song. It's my, like I said, least favorite one on the album. New Kern, I found strangely intriguing, and I hadn't even had a beer at that point. And the thing was, again, interesting was Bowie plays sax on this, which, again, I was just really impressed with because I did not know the man played saxophone. And having played saxophone in, like, high school, it struck me. I bet he played it better than me, even with his weird stuff going on. I gave this to Bowie 10-9.
All right. Tony, did you strap on your saxophone and follow suit?
I went 10-9 ZZ Top here, and the reason why is, I mean, I didn't really care for either song. I agree with Tim. The lyrics on this ZZ Top song, I didn't know which way they were going. I couldn't tell. I listened to it twice, and I was like, one time I thought one thing, one time I thought another. But hey, that was kind of fun. The David Bowie song, I appreciate the fact that he played sax on it. That's really cool to know, and it just adds to his mythos, if you will, of how cool he is. But it just didn't work for me here. Bowie didn't, so I went with ZZ Top.
And this also concludes a trio by David Bowie of instrumentals. It doesn't look like that paid off in the AlbumFight arena, although he does take this round. But then again, Sense of Doubt won, so what the heck do I know? I don't know. It seemed it was an odd choice. I knew listening. I was like, really, again, with the instrumentals? And I know Brian Eno's incredible and all that, but it was, that was hard. But I scored it pretty much exactly how you guys did. Well, let's go ahead and go into the final round. Round 10, Have a Little Mercy versus The Secret Life of Arabia. And let's have Tim lead us off.
Pete, I want to mention, too, by the way, we've talked about Brian Eno several times, but remember who produced the ZZ Top albums? Rick Rubin. It's interesting. It's sort of like, the ultimate producer of, I guess, the 70s and 80s against the ultimate producer of the 90s and the 2000s, whatever we're in here now, which is kind of interesting, I think. Rick Rubin was big, and he brought Johnny Cash's career back after he did that song with U2, and very interesting guy. All right, Have a Little Mercy versus The Secret Life of Arabia. I think Have a Little Mercy is like the funkiest song on this album, and having been a big fan of, funk groups from the 70s, that really hit me. I thought this was almost the bass and guitar part here were almost more funk than they were blues and rock. And again, just amazing, the guitar part here. And I really like Have a Little Mercy. And I really didn't want to like The Secret Life of Arabia because, my graduate school education is in Middle East stuff. And I'm like, I can't like it just because it says Arabia in the title. I tried not to like it, honestly, but I thought the bass part was really good. I thought the way Bowie switched up on his vocals was amazing. Because of course the guy is amazing with his voice. I mean, one of the greatest voices, which I don't think really comes out much on this album. You get it a lot more in, Fame and then later on Let's Dance and stuff. But I really don't think his vocals were that super on this album, but they were really good on this song. You know what this reminded me of? It's reminding me of a Queen song. You guys keep talking about Pink Floyd, and I understand that. But this is Queen got big in 75. This reminded me of a Queen song. Which is probably just, serendipity. So, although Have a Little Mercy is a really good song, I gave this one to Bowie, 10-9.
Wow, all right. Tony, how did you close out?
So, after getting 3 of 4 clunkers from David Bowie, I didn't really know what to expect. Because he was wobbling for a while, and he comes back, and then he's wobbling again, and like, what is going on? And ZZ Top comes through with the closing song, and just keeps on going and keeps on going. But I agree with Tim. The Secret Life of Arabia, I really liked it. I really liked how it closed the album, and it kind of made up a little bit for those 4 not so great ones that I just heard before that. So I went 10-9 Bowie on this one as well.
Dan, did you have the same kind of love for the Arabia song, or how did you do it?
So listening to Tim, he actually said something that just kind of light bulb went off in my head. And I was trying to think what this whole Bowie album was missing. And this song had it, because I have it written down here, vocals, and it's circled for the Secret Life of Arabia. Good song, great song. Have a Little Mercy to me was one of the best songs on this album. I really liked it. I downloaded, I think, the song. When I say it's underrated, when I looked to download it, they didn't have it rated very high on iTunes, and it kind of struck me kind of strange. The lyrics are fun, but the Bowie song, Bowie song had vocals, and that's what seems to me that the rest of his album was missing. So I had this one really close, but it was 10-9 ZZ Top.
What made the difference for you, Dan?
While the vocals in Arabia were good, I really liked the guitar work and Have a Little Mercy.
All right, fair enough. Guitar work from Billy Gibbons is a good reason to do this. All right, well that wraps the fight. Ding ding ding. All right, so let's get Richard's post-fight analysis. Richard?
The first true album fight of the year, and we already have an upset. And I'm saying upset while doing finger quotes, just so you know. It's merely an upset according to what the numbers said, but probably not a huge surprise when you really look at the fight. If you remember in my pre-fight, I'd noted the original numbers I'd looked at were odd, and that made me go off the experimental path this week and back to the original formula. Well, those numbers were saying something. So looking at this post-mortem, one of the series of numbers was just plain wrong, and the other two told a more accurate story, saying it could really go either way, and when it could either go either way, they really meant it could go really far, either direction, because there were so many ties on those in that particular set of numbers. And that's exactly what we had. We had two judges that went for ZZ Top, and one was a draw. The average score came out to 96-94, or a 6-rounds-to-4 win. And that's just one off of a draw. So this turned out to be one of those what wins, tried and true or experimental type fights. And I think it's safe to say, especially in a song v song format, experimental music has a tougher hill to climb. ZZ Top is doing what they've done for over 40 years on what sounds to be a very well-produced album, against Bowie relatively early in his career taking risks. Big risks, lightly fueled by a lot of drugs while he was in Berlin. Also, don't discount that things may be a little different if you listen to these albums in order without the song v song format. But our game is song versus song, and ZZ Top proved that doing what you do wins in this fight. Back to you guys.
Yes, a big surprise for the numbers today, for sure. Tim, what are your thoughts post-fight? You've got this thing 95-93 for ZZ Top, a majority decision. What do you have?
I just think it's a very solid album, and you know, I remember, Pete, again, this is sort of similar to when we did U2, All That You Can't Leave Behind versus Doors' first album against U2's whatever number that album was for U2, fairly long in their career. So you got a little bit of this here, although Bowie had done quite a number of albums by this time, so you can't say he was a neophyte. It certainly was, I think, his 7th or 8th album or something like that at this point. So, you know, both of them were, I think it's safe to say, it seems to me like several of you guys didn't even know about this ZZ Top album until I brought it up. Heroes, I think, is one of the lesser known albums for Bowie. So in that sense, it's kind of a fair fight, although the albums are 35 years apart. They both were gold, not platinum. Each of these other groups had platinum albums that were much bigger. So these were sort of moderate hits for each of the groups, each of the acts. But I again, I think that what really strikes me about this is being able to compare two extremely different acts, one from the 70s and one from the 21st century here, and sort of get a feel for how both of these artists operated.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a fun contrast, and we also get to get David Bowie in the ring, which is proven hard because his stuff is peaky, and he's a bit of a darling, like you said. And it's like, how do you fairly put him in the ring? Because if you put him in against a truly great album, it's not going to go well for him. It's just it doesn't have the hits. Dan, how would you close out your fight analysis? You had this thing going 97-93 for ZZ Top, so you actually gave them 7 rounds to Bowie's 3.
Yeah, ZZ Top, they went back to their roots, and they played to their strong suit. With the kind of the blues riffs, the guitar. Bowie on this one, and after listening to Tim's previous analysis, that kind of brought the light bulb in my head. This is kind of like what an actor would say. You do a couple of safe films before you do the artsy film.
Mm-hmm.
This, to me, seemed kind of David Bowie's artsy album. He showed off a lot of instrumental in this that I've learned today that I didn't know he had, which kind of gives me a little bit more of an appreciation for it. But he played away from his strong suit, which is his voice.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, in my opinion, ZZ Top had no problem pulling away with this.
Would you guys say that David Bowie's a little bit indulgent then on this album, or did it with his art school girlfriend get in his pants and tell him how to do this, or what do you think happened?
No, I think he's a lot indulgent on this album, Pete.
Okay. Yeah.
Definitely.
Tony, you had it straight down the middle, 95-95. You had it a draw, which is actually almost what I had. I had an extra knockdown in there, so I had it 96-95. So you had this as a draw. There's no knockdowns on your card. What made the difference?
So there's songs that David Bowie does, like Heroes, that just stand out. They're just fantastic songs. But I thought that ZZ Top was very consistent, and David Bowie took a lot of chances, and ZZ Top didn't. They stuck to what they're good at, and I think that made all the difference for ZZ Top in earning a draw in my eyes. I believe it was Dan talked about how some of the songs on the back end of David Bowie's album reminded him of Pink Floyd. I went and after I put in my scores, I listened to tracks 6 through 10 all the way through in one shot, and it reminded me of how Wish You Were Here would have been, where the whole one side is just goes. And when I did it like that, the whole thing made sense, and I was like, wow, this is really good. But in this format, the instrumentals don't hold up. Right. They don't hold up to the consistency of the 3 chords of ZZ Top. I mean, it's 3 chords, but they 3-quartered themselves right in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So
yeah,
it's 3 chords on steroids is what you get with ZZ Top, though.
Yeah.
So that's why I got it as well.
Pete, you had a 96-95 for whom?
Oh, I should say I had it 96-95 for Bowie.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So who won overall? Did ZZ Top win?
So my scores are unofficial. The winner with Tim and Dan going for ZZ Top is ZZ Top. The majority decision goes that way because Tony split it 95-95.
Yeah.
So
if you put up the top 15 or 20 songs by each of these acts, David Bowie probably blows ZZ Top away.
Yeah.
I mean, you put in Fame and stuff from Golden Years and stuff from Let's Dance and in songs like Heroes. I mean, he has written some awesome songs. ZZ Top's written some good songs too, but I don't think they have any of those really big knockout songs, on the level of a Heroes or a Modern Love or a Let's Dance or something. But as you said, Pete, these are scattered throughout his albums because he likes to take all this artistic license and do weird stuff that you just go, what are you doing?
Tim's got it right. ZZ Top is like the girl you're dating that's a 6, but she'll always be a 6 while David Bowie is a girl that is smoking hot, but she might come in one day with a shaved head.
Yeah, or just not show up and she's with her art school boyfriend. Yeah. You're like, where the fuck are you? Yeah.
That's right.
I should say, I want to make a correction on my fight card. I noticed on my thing I had crossed some scores over, but I've done the math again. I actually have it for ZZ Top 95, 94. I had an absolute annihilation from Heartache and Blue. I was not kind during the instrumental rounds. So I'm going to have to try what you said, Tony, and listen to that back half of the album as a single piece of music, because I had those guys, like you said, just that metronome, just tap, 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 just feeding that jab into David Bowie's face while he's out there trying to be all artistic and everything. So
yeah, when I threw it in there and just went 6 to 10, and I didn't even listen to the first 5, I just went 6 to 10. I said, there's got to be a reason why this sounds the way it does. And when I listened to it, I took it and appreciated it a little bit more for it in its entirety. And then just remembering too that, you know, these albums are 35 years apart, and back in 1977, we had to flip the album over to listen to the other side, and so, you know, sometimes albums were done on a side basis rather than an individual track basis.
It definitely makes a difference. Well, fellas, listen, it's been fantastic. You know, I love doing this with you guys because it's just you're cool and you're hanging out and talking with your friends, and not a surprise that Dr. Tim is providing light bulbs for anybody, because that's what he does for a living. But thank you so much for sharing the time. Let me also say this too, for all the people that are worried about the music and the judgment. We love this music. Tim, it's like I gotta have ZZ Top in the ring because I'm crazy about him, and I think Bowie's a great matchup, and I agree completely. We want to hear these guys' music. Everybody always says, I've added this to the playlist. This is the idea. We're exposed to music that I didn't know about this time for sure, and a bunch of other things. And then you build an appreciation. That's why we do this, to build an appreciation, to help the acts get exposed more, and to have a great conversation. And I know that's mission accomplished today. Fellas, anything in closing? Dan?
Yeah, I hope I didn't ramble on. I promised Tish I wouldn't.
You did great, man.
She kind of gave me some flack about rambling on. So Tish, I hope I didn't go on too long.
Hey, Tish has got to get in the ring with that knife of hers. You know, she's got to get in and get dangerous. We're going to do it.
She protects me.
Yes. And Tony, any final thoughts?
Yeah, this is a great fight, and I appreciate Tim for bringing it to the table, and it's making me go back in the ZZ Top catalog again and take another examination of it and listening to it over and over again. So I appreciate that.
Nice. Tim, close us out.
I am now going to make an effort to see ZZ Top in concert, Pete, since you recommended it, and after I listen to this again. And thank you for listening to me, and thank you for having me on.